I've had to ask myself, did Resident Evil 2 really need a remake? And to be honest, no one really knows the answer to that, as it's up to the player who's playing. I'm still relatively new to this nearly 30-year-old series, and since I've been playing, I've loved each and every one of them. With that being said, I'm sorry to say, this is not a comparison video. To be honest, it's probably a ton of those all over the internet anyway, so what are you gonna do? I have yet to play the original RE2, but I did play the remake, and it was a fantastic experience, and a godforsaken annoying when playing it on hardcore difficulty, but a blast nonetheless. Resident Evil 2, from what I can see, was a perfectly executed modern rendition of a beloved horror classic, using new modern features, mechanics, modified graphics. Capcom put the works in to give us something up to par that did not disappoint. Today we're going to be talking about probably the one of the greatest remakes of all time. According to the people, it is what it is. Resident Evil 2. Roll them credits. I thought to myself when I was writing the script, what would this video be about since it's not a comparison? Ultimately, RE2R gives us, and I'm going to be calling it RE2R just to make it easier, because I'm not going to be saying Resident Evil 2 Remake every single time. That's a pain in the booty. We're not going to be doing that anyway. Back to what I was. Ultimately, RE2R gives us enough to where you don't really need to involve the original. I know that'll probably upset someone watching, but it's really hard to disagree. Upon coming up with this video, I came to the simple conclusion of simply why? Why did Capcom decide at the end of the day to make a team and recreate these beloved classics that we possibly might get hate for after release, or days down the road, months down the road, years down the road? It's a definitely huge possibility. You know, this age of remakes, it kind of never fails. Is Capcom falling off, or is it just for all the experience? Well, you can bet your candy ass. Nah, let's be honest. Capcom isn't falling off. Capcom isn't going anywhere soon from what it looks like. They're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty successful. They just released Street Fighter 6. They on a grind, bro. Capcom is not slowing down, and they're probably doing better than ever, and they have in the past few years. Capcom isn't falling off, and when it comes to their care of doing these remakes, it all comes down to three qualities of why they're successful: modernization, criticism, and accessibility. Early in the years upon development of RE2R, director Shinji Mikami actually planned on remaking RE after the success of RE1R for the GameCube, but didn't want to take away from the sleeping hero known as Resident Evil 4. He had an original vision with what was planned with the 96 original, and successfully created that vision with RE1R with the hardware capabilities of the GameCube at the time. This was what he wanted all along: the horror, the visual, the claustrophobia experience that wasn't achievable with the tech that was given upon the late 90s and 1996 specifically. Starting off with modernization, you can already see that there are several things different in RE2R that trumps the RE2 original. Other than the obvious graphical upgrade, RE2 would be significantly a scarier game, from the sound design to gore details that the original granddaddy PlayStation was not capable of. Controls aren't tank controls, and the remakes provides a comfy control setting. There are also gameplay elements of the originals that are super outdated and unfashionable. I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. I'm gonna say unfashionable because it's kind of the better, less like trash way of saying it, so I'll just say unfashionable instead of outdated to make people happier about that, but it is what it is. The easy example is the fixed camera angles, and while these are loved, absolutely loved by many fans as well as myself, these angles aren't a popularized feature of today. Sure, you can say that there are probably indie devs that feature fixed camera angles, but for the most part, Capcom has modernized over-the-shoulder feel for people that haven't played the original. New gamers, young and old, who might have had peaked interest over time or just seen up to release. And in order to sell to modern gamers, you can't sell games that look unfashionable. Along with a stronger list of unlockables, better story tie-in, more interaction from supporting characters, like the absolute giant asshole that is Chief Irons, and the fact that Mr. X is a significantly more of a threat in the remake over, you know, the original RE2 is when he's like a refrigerator coming after you, As you can clearly tell here, that's not really a threat. It is what it is compared to this. RE2 is an overall polished experience that fits the A+ title rank, but not the I'm bullshitting you this time and I'm gonna fuck over my fans with the cock. Change is a law of life, and to those who only look to the past or present are certain to miss the future. Mr. John F. Kennedy. This is basically Mr. Kennedy telling you to don't miss the train, CJ. You're missing a new heat. Pick up the controller, pick up the keyboard. I don't give a f.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ. All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ. All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Resident Evil 2, the original, was a damn near perfect game. With all the years it's been released, I've barely, to be honest, let's be real clear here, I've barely heard anyone complain about it, and a lot of the time it ends up being a lot of the fans' favorite game in the entire series. The game was as close to perfection as you can get. You think about how many games there are for RE, that's definitely setting a bar. Despite the improvements of the original RE2 still had only a few criticisms that were accounted for in the remake. Aiming was a pain, and precision was super clunky, no thanks to the possible frustrating camera angles and tank controls. Puzzles were apparently not paced very well. Slowness, inventory management was not an enjoyable feature, but I also feel that this experience depends on how far you're willing to master it. I mean, that's kind of not any news. Like, every Resident Evil game kind of has that feature. You kind of gotta get good at it. Gameplay was the only criticism, but at the end of the day, depending on you, the player, this can be written off as a technological, criticism, liability due to hardware at the time. In any case, the remake fixed any gameplay issue. Faster reaction ability, clear aim and precision, with it being switched to third person, and smooth inventory controls pieced everything together well enough. Ultimately, the point of these remakes is to present a new experience to the player while also feeding off the great memories we have of the game. A new experience leads me to the last point of why, and that's accessibility and approachability. I'd like to first point out that there are so... She's scratching the hell out of that damn, scratching post. I'd like to first point out that there are so many games that are re-released and remastered for them to be placed on online shops, stores like PSN, but then removed. I cannot tell you how long I looked for the RE2 original online, and not counting the emulator, it just simply does not exist out there. I searched... And apparently it's on the PS3, PSN through access on the PS3, but there's no way in hell I'm going on the PS3. I don't have a PS3 with me anymore. My PS3 is way back at my mom's house, back in Virginia, and I live in Texas. There's no way I'm going back for a PS3. I'm not gonna load a PS3 just to get a RE2 copy, so I may as well just get the remake or get the original. And hey, it is what it is, because I'm collecting old games anyway, so I may as well just add it to the original collection. And RE3 Nemesis is a amazing addition to the collection. Mind you, I actually bought RE3 Nemesis. I don't know how I got the RE3, but I'm talking about RE2. But this is using an example. I actually got RE3 Nemesis, but the game didn't work. Literally didn't work. I went back into the shop and they were like, okay, we're gonna see if the contestants work. It didn't work, so I got my money back. It was $80. It is what it is. So I'm on a journey to find another copy of RE3. That's a story for another day. Until I come with another video, let's continue. However, you could ask, why can't it just be uploaded? Well, first, one of the main points of a remake is to bring new, fresh players that are familiar with modern games. Second, this is going to be a little painful to say, for me as well, older games aren't the easiest to get into. As someone who collects his fair share of classic and retro games, my exact thoughts when buying something that old or a certain age, whether it's from the 90s or even the early 2000s, I'm like, well, I already know this is going to be a struggle, and I grew up with 5th and 6th generation games. My first console that I owned was a 64. The first console that I played on was NES, Super NES. It was from one of my cousins, and, it is what it was. They're just not that easy to adapt to, depending on the game. Like, for example, the first Tomb Raider and the second Tomb Raider are the most, and I've tried, the most badly aged games as far as playability. You just gotta try it yourself. You don't want to know. I can't really say anything on it, just play them yourself and you can see exactly what I mean. The developers want to ensure that adaptability is easy for new players to win them over and ease them into an enjoyable playthrough. The older copy will always be available, but here's a new one for you players in case you want something more accessible. RE2 Remake also has the ability to modify players' experiences and preferences, such as aim snapping, for example, for players with disabilities, which is something I never really thought of myself until recently, and for players that want specific features that won't hinder their playthrough of the game. Games, in this case, Resident Evil, is an ever-changing landscape. It works because Capcom changes, expands, replaces, removes, reorders, redirects so many elements in these titles that is a completely different experience, a completely new experience from the original, while also keeping a sensation of fear, claustrophobia, and everything that the original was known for. Piggybacking on the sensation of fear and claustrophobia, I want to talk about my experience with RE2 specifically. Oh my gosh, he's waited so long for this. He's taking a whole video explaining as to why, but he's not explaining his experience with the video, which is most of the series. Upon arrival, the police station isn't anything to be taken too lightly. I played this game on both normal and hardcore difficulty, and while normal it wasn't too complicated, hardcore is damn near impossible. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure how I would do this video, and to be fair, based on a struggle I had with this game, I'm going to start comparing normal to hardcore difficulty, as my order was Claire normal, Leon hardcore. Traversing through RE2R, regardless of who you're playing, feels like a puzzle. Piece by piece, you're collecting keys and medallions, while also attempting to not get ate. And also not being able to see a damn thing in this game. Because may I add, this is a dark ass game. Like, even when I attempted to brighten up the settings, like, it's kind of damn near impossible to see anything. Like, I'm over here constantly squinting like the medieval kid in Fairly Odd Parents, bro. It was terrible.
I can see!
I can fight!
I've adjusted and not even just the game, but like my monitors itself, and it's just a dark game. Like, I guess it's meant to be that way in case you gotta see like zombies peering out of nowhere out of the darkness, because it's kind of low-key creepy, but at the same time, like, yo, yeah, my eyes, bro, like, come on, dog. Like, areas with a damn ceiling light or even a few fucking candles was a godsend. Starting off with my clear playthrough, just because it was normal, it didn't take anything away from this game. It still provided a fun, not too easy, not too hard experience where I was able to experiment with my items, have enough items to work with, and enjoy the story. As usual, there are a few key differences in weapons that you can get with Claire opposite of Leon. Claire has 7 weapons you acquire: the SLS-60, which is the default, the JMB handgun, the submachine gun, the spark gun, minigun, quick draw revolver, the spark shot, and the grenade launcher, which definitely comes in handy in sticky situations. I'm not that guy, so I wasn't gonna go above and beyond to try and get all these. That just wasn't gonna happen in this, because just nah. Most of the time, I stuck using the handguns and machine guns with Claire because, well, simplicity. The two character storylines also play adjacent to each other, not as much as I kind of was expecting, but you can kind of see how it goes in pace of stories and arcs and locations and even boss battles at the end of the game, near end of the game. With Claire, you navigate through the police station, the underground machinery room, the parking garage, the daycare, the sewers, and the nest lab. With Leon, you navigate through the police station, the underground machinery room once again, the parking garage along with the jail cells, the sewers, and the nest lab. Rest in peace to this guy.
Oh my god.
Personally, I did enjoy Leon's arc more than Claire's midway through, due to the involvement of Ada Wong and Mr. X's full form, but I did really love the hide-and-seek storytelling when you get to play as Sherry Birkin within Claire's. You got to see how much of an asshole this man Chief Irons is, and to a kid at that, bro. Like, dog, like, it was really super satisfying to see this man's head get busted at the end of the game. Like, not end of the game, but like after that like whole daycare section, because I was like, my guy, it's just a kid. Why you so mean, bruh? I understand this is like the end of the world, zombie apocalypse, everybody dead. Like, you got a girlfriend, it's over for her. Like, I don't know what the problem is, but bro, like, this is a small child, bro. Like, kind of helpless. Come on, bruh. Overall, the sewers and the underground parking lot were by far the scariest sections in this game. It's not only super dark, but they give you a sense of dread, especially when you first walk into the corridors and the hallways of the lot. and the sewers were the most claustrophobic moments of the game. The sounds of the sewer creatures underwater breathing and crying did not make you excited to see those chest parts to access the Nest Lab section. I probably had the most fun in the Nest Lab section actually, due to the sheer blast fest of enemies coming at you within horde. With me having a grenade launcher, it was just a blast. Like, it was super fun. I was having a good time. It was obviously still scary, but it is what it was. But it was a tough run still nonetheless. One thing that I also want to add that was a huge difference from the original game was the AI of the zombies. In tough spots, especially on hardcore difficulty, running past anything was once again damn near impossible. Due to the reach and like the ability to like the zombies have to like stretch and chase after you, like that was not an enjoyable feature. I understand it enhanced the anxiety and like fear of this game, but oh my gosh, I freaking hated it. But at the same time, it was super dope and I loved it at the same time. I can't even complain, even though I am. And it really made this gameplay, especially playing on hardcore difficulty, obnoxiously complicated. Like, yo, why? Once again, I'm asking that question. One specific portion within Leon's playthrough, between my goals of retrieving the gear from the clock tower, the amount of save slots I took up was probably the most that I've had to take up in any game that I've ever played. And it was in order to save myself from past objectives and to make sure I wasn't screwed up enough to move on to the next part, along with sneaking past lickers, zombies, normal zombies, Mr. X staring at me while he cannot walk past a door he's too huge to get into, along with 2 or 3 shotgun shells, 1 grenade, and a knife with 1 stab use. I had to strategically plan this to get back to the underground facility after this portion of the game. Oh my gosh. This probably took me about a bit, maybe around 20 times to get past this section of the game on hardcore difficulty on Leon's playthrough. And to be honest, that's probably a conservative estimate of how long that took me to do. After this, I wasn't doing this then. I wanted to get past this part of the game to say I've done it, because that was the hardest part. But a little after this, I changed the whole game afterwards. I honestly got tired of seeing Leon's face getting ripped to shreds, so I started to look away at my phone every time he died, and it kind of gets traumatizing at a point. Like, trust me, it gets real traumatizing. So this is the reason why I started using a trainer for a story a little after this. It got too much to the point where I started to not enjoy the game, and that's kind of the last thing that I wanted to happen. I essentially just maxed out my item slots and unlimited ammo. I could still get killed if I wasn't too careful. My aim was enough to lead me through the game, and when you feel like ammo isn't the problem, the amount of headshots I was able to get without being shaky was on a completely different level. Here's to no more anxiety with these enemies, and to more anxiety talking to Ada, because god damn.
Find a way out, Leon, before it's too late. Then we'll talk. Name's Ada.
I want to end this video by saying RE2R is a perfect remake in my opinion. As I said before, bouncing off those main factors of modernization, accessibility, and criticism of the original, Capcom managed to create an updated success that initiated the same fear and feel in a completely different atmosphere. If that isn't the recipe for a quote-unquote remake, I don't know what is. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, especially something as small as over a video game. Some love it, some hate it, some respect it in its own right. However, with it being the most anticipated of remakes over the years ever because of the love of the original, it's ended up being the highest selling game of the series, making $12.60 million as of August of 2023, beating out the number 2, which is RE7 at $12.20. I don't know, I said 2012.40 million. It's also had near perfect reviews, which is basically impossible in this landscape of remakes. And that's just kind of how it goes. Like, remakes these days aren't necessarily the best thing. It gets a lot of shame from people. You don't really know what to expect. They're fantastic, amazing remasters. Like Spyro got a good remaster. The Jak and Daxter series got a remaster like years ago. And hey, like, what was another good one? The Metroid Prime like remaster that's recently released that I'm actually playing through now. I'm gonna go ahead and probably do a video on that later. But it's kind of a hit or miss with these remakes and remasters these days. These days, I'm thinking, like, lately, I feel like they have been getting better, and I feel like they've been getting a lot of good feedback from fans. And to be honest, that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. Let me know in the comments. Have you played RE2R? Did you love it? Did you hate it? If you played the original, how would you compare? Thanks so much, guys, for coming over to the channel, and especially if you're new here. Thanks so much, guys, for coming over to the channel, and especially if you made it to the interview. Man, thank you so much, guys, for coming over to the channel, especially if you're at the end of the video. Extra thanks for you as well. This is Climax. Lastly, be safe out there. Later, guys.
Hey, that was Live Another Day by the great.
He was friendly.
So, is it over?
I don't know. But if it's not, we'll stop it. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, you damn right we will.
As long as we stick together, we'll be fine. Come on.
Hey, you guys can adopt me.
Adopt you.
We can get a puppy
Puppy.
and a parrot.
Parrot.
I always wanted pets, but my mom said they're too messy.
Next up on this boring Wednesday is a song to get your blood pumping.